Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the Southbound train going anywhere. Oh, what did you Will Smith me for?
It's Midnight Train.
Oh, here's a review for Southbound by this guy.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to 31 Days of Horror. I'm Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. Southbound is an anthology film that was released in 2015, and this is one that came into my radar, I believe, just maybe a year ago. I think I've heard the title, but I've never really kind of looked into it until a little bit more recently. So, I heard it was an anthology, and I heard good things about it. I mean, it's certified fresh, so not that I go by Rotten Tomatoes a whole lot anymore. I usually stick to IMDb. However, I've only heard positivity. So, and I like my anthologies. I really like anthology films just because of the nature of them. I like seeing different stories, different takes. You have 4 directors going on here. You have 4 stories, although there's a wraparound with the first and then the last. So basically they're the same story. They kind of tie everything together. And then you have a full 2, 3, and 4 story, I guess. So 4 full stories is basically what I'm trying to get at. And they all involve people going southbound on the highway. So what we have going on here is it starts off where you have these 2 guys, and I don't know if they're brothers, I don't know if they're cousins, I don't know. They're somehow, I don't know, they could be best friends. They're somehow related to each other, and they show up at this like truck stop, gas station, motel, and they are basically looking to book a room, and then they end up in this loop of a scenario where they try to leave and then they just come back to the same hotel and then they go in the same direction and then they come back and it just starts looping. So you have that going on. And then this is the kind of anthology that it's their own separate stories. They do tie into each other, but they only tie into each other where the character from the previous story runs into the character from the next story. So it's not like Trick or Treat where you have every story like literally overlapping with each other and you have this whole scenario where everybody meets each other, everybody interacts with each other, and it's this whole grand scheme of situations happening where they all overlap. But it's also not the kind of anthology where it literally tells one story and then cut, black, title, tells another story, cut, black, title, tells another story. It's kind of in the middle where like the character from the end of one story will run into the character from the beginning of the next story and then it'll continue off with them, but they don't necessarily interact with each other other than like crossing each other essentially. So the first one, like I said, has to do with the motel and the looping. Then the second story basically has to do with this trio of girls who are traveling across country, southbound obviously, as a band. They're a jazz band, and then they end up in this cult situation, so I'll just leave it at that, because I don't want to spoil this film too much. I'm just going to give the very basic nutshell of these individual stories. And then afterwards, we have my favorite one, which has to do with a car accident and a hospital. So I'll just leave it at that. It's awesome. I mean, the psychological fuckery that goes on with that story, it is beyond my favorite. Now, the 2 directors, before I continue, that I recognize, because there's 4 directors total, I recognize 2. Radio Silence, the directors of Scream 5 and 6. I mean, they're awesome, and the director of Ready or Not and Abigail. Amazing film. And then I also recognize David Bruckner, who directed the Hellraiser 2022 remake, which I really enjoyed, actually. I really had a good time with that film. So, David Bruckner, Radio Silence, I recognize. There's two other directors in here. We got Roxanne. Let me find her last name, because I do want to mention all of them. Roxanne Benjamin. And then we got Patrick Horvath, if I'm pronouncing it. Horvath? If I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I am. And then, like I said, the other two. So yeah, David Bruckner and Radio Silence are pretty awesome, so I liked seeing them in here. So yeah, the hospital and then the accident scene. And then afterwards, we have this woman cross the path with the guy, the main character in the hospital segment. And then we have this woman basically walking to a bar. She goes in. It's a very, like, underground, kind of like almost prohibition seeming bar. And it's very, like, country. It's very redneck. It's very, like, off the dirt road kind of thing. And we start to develop this, I will just say monster story, but it basically involves a guy looking for his sister. So he's in search of his sister, and he will do basically anything to get her back. And there's reveals of, not so human individuals. And then after that, the final story, basically, I'll just leave it at this clearly was inspired by The Strangers. I'll just leave it at that. It's not even inspired, it's literally a ripoff. Like, there's so much that happens in this segment that it's just like, oh, The Strangers? Okay. So you clearly watched The Strangers and you just want to do The Strangers again. So, it was good though, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying that as a negative, I'm not saying that as a bad thing. But it was fun, and then the very final segment wraps around to the first one. So you have a full circle of, this crazy all over the place, Southbound, but there's a lot of theories, there's a lot of explanation kind of, I guess, videos you could say, and a lot of ideas and a lot of opinions that are going on about this film, because this is a film obviously to be analyzed. But it's fun. If you like anthologies, you're going to have a great time with this. Obviously, some stories are better than others. I easily have my preference on the hospital one and the accident one. But they're all fun, and I think they all merit being here. And there's not like a story that's a drag. None of them are a drag at all. And I was trying to find a theme. I think the theme has a lot to do with, like, paying for your sins and paying for your past. But I also think there was a theme that goes on in a lot of films, a lot of the stories, but they don't happen in all of the stories. There's a lot of scenarios where a character will know a name of another person that they should not know about, like. Some person will say, like, oh, I'm sorry about Alex, and the character will be like, how do you know Alex? I never mentioned Alex. What are you talking about? How do you know Alex? And it'll get into, like, some confusion, and then the person will play dumb kind of thing. That happens in a few stories, but it doesn't happen in every single one, which I kind of wish it did, because that would give a lot more of a theme to each story. But they're all fun, and I think, like I said, paying for the sins of the past, I think, is what this film is going for. There's also a radio DJ that plays in between each segment, because, like, pretty much every segment involves a person driving at some point. So you have this radio DJ played by, or spoken by, Larry Fassender. He's an actor and a director. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of his films, directing-wise. Unfortunately, I watched a couple of them, and they're just not my thing. Not that he's a bad director, they just don't resonate with me. As an actor, though, I think he really likes the genre, and he really enjoys it, and he likes giving it his all. And I prefer him personally, in my personal opinion, as an actor over a director, but that's just me. I'm sure he has his fans out there like crazy, and I'm not going to say that he's a terrible director by any means, because I don't even think that. I just think that from what I've seen by him, directing wise, just not my thing kind of thing. So that's about it. But I had a really good time with Southbound. So far, it's really, really on par with Skeleton Crew. I'm probably going to put this first, first place, but Skeleton Crew is right there. This has a bigger budget, a bigger production value than Skeleton Crew did. But Skeleton Crew was just so much fun, and I just had such a good time with that film. This one, just a little bit less in the entertainment value, but it has a great production. There's this creature feature too, in one of the segments. I'm not going to say which. The creature looks phenomenal. Like, the creature is so unique, and it is CGI, a lot of it, but they did a really good job with the CGI, which not a lot of films are able to do. And the creature is just so damn unique. You have to see it just for the creature itself. It looks great. I've never seen a creature look like that, so I can give that props too all day long. Yeah, Southbound is worth watching. I'm glad I picked this one up, and I'm glad I watched it for 31 Days of Horror, because this makes a phenomenal day 8. So yeah, it's creepy, and it's entertaining, and you won't be disappointed with any of the segments, especially, in my personal opinion, the hospital accident segment. Man, just watch it for that alone. I wish I would I would just snip it out and just tell people to watch that one. Directed by David Bruckner. So that's Southbound. Had a good time with it. Stay tuned for more spooky reviews. There's plenty more coming, of course. It's 31 Days of Horror, and we've got plenty more in line. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you want to keep in touch with further spooky reviews, and stay tuned for more 31 Days of Horror. Until next review, have a good one. Cheers.